Buffalo Bills running back James Cook could be on his way out from Buffalo. Now, just the other day, he went on an Instagram live and pinned a comment where he said he wanted $15 million a year, and knowing Brandon Beane, I don't know if that will get done. As a Bills fan, obviously, I love James Cook. He had 16 touchdowns last year, which tied for the lead in the NFL, but honestly, his contract demands could be a little bit too much. Now, when I first saw those demands from James Cook, I thought it was going to be a fine. I didn't think anyone was going to, completely disagree, because he did have a great year. But then diving deeper into the contracts for running backs, he'd be the second highest paid running back, and I don't know if you could give that to him right now. Now, just for reference, if he got $15 million a year, that would be more than Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, Alvin Kamara. That'd be more than Josh Jacobs, and they all had some great seasons with their teams. And, while James Cook is great, is he on the level of those running backs? Maybe Alvin Kamara at this point in Alvin Kamara's career, but he's getting a little up there in age, so it'd be kind of surprising if he wasn't. But all these other running backs, they might be a little bit more deserving of that money than him. But let's say, you think that James Cook is on that level with those running backs, which he's definitely not on the level of Saquon Barkley. But regardless, if you think that he is worth that big contract, I want to give you some stats from Buffalo Rumblings, which is a good Buffalo news website. So you guys want, check them out. They have a bunch of good articles. But they made a little tidbit on their James Cook article. They talk about the snap counts of all these running backs. And James Cook is by far and away a lot lower than all these other guys. If we look at these snap counts, excuse me, I'm going to have to look off to the right side just so I can make sure all these numbers are, correct. Christian McCaffrey plays 75% of the team snaps. Jonathan Taylor plays 80% of the Colts snaps. Saquon Barkley 64%, Alvin Kamara 71%, Josh Jacobs 63%, and even James Conner is at 60%. And these are all running backs who make over $9.125 million annually. So, take that as you will. And then David Montgomery, he makes exactly $9.125 million, and he only plays 41% of the snaps. So he's way on the lower end, but that's only because they have a split backfield with him and Jahmyr Gibbs. And now getting to James Cook, his average, snap count was 48% for the Buffalo Bills this year, which is significantly lower than all these other guys. He is not an every down back, just like everyone else is. On third downs, the Bills had Ty Johnson come in power goal line situations. Sometimes Ray Davis would come in, the rookie. So while James Cook is obviously great, he's not an every down running back like all these other guys are that are making so much money. And the highest that James Cook's snap count ever got was 50%, and that was on November 10th. So, his snap count never really got too high. Now, in the past, the Bills have shown that they are willing to move on from talented running backs like Devin Singletary. He was a homegrown guy drafted in the third round from the Bills. I believe it was 2019. And by the time his contract was up, while a bunch of Bills fans loved him, the Bills let him go to Houston Texans on a one-year deal worth like $2 million. So the Bills could have easily given him that. Devin Singletary wanted a kind of a prove-it deal to go somewhere else, and the Bills just weren't willing to pay him a big contract that he thought he deserved. So we've kind of already gone through this story where the running back obviously just doesn't come back because Beane is willing to move on and draft a replacement. But now with James Cook, that could be a different story, because while Devin Singletary was a very good running back, good average yards per carry, he averaged like 5 during his time with Buffalo. He obviously wasn't as elite of a talent as James Cook was, so maybe it's a different story this time. But even if he does get his extension, I don't know if it will be in the $15 million per year range. I can see being more so towards like 10, 11 million if he does sign an extension, just because that would be more kind of in line with the running backs now without getting too crazy for the cap. So now let's say he does move on, or the Bills do move on from James Cook and they decide to trade him, which we'll get into some trade scenarios in a little bit. The current running back room would just be Ray Davis, with Ty Johnson being a free agent. And I think one of the Bills' highest priorities should be getting Ty Johnson back, because he did have such a great year for the Bills. Every single third down he would come in, be a great receiving back. He had multiple great catches over the course of the season. Most notably the one in the wildcard round against Denver on that 4th and 2, Josh Allen rolling out, and Ty Johnson just comes back to find the ball. And those receiving skills as a running back is insanely hard to find. So getting Ty Johnson back here with the Buffalo Bills would be greatly beneficial. And then on top of that, if we do bring back Ty Johnson, I still think there's room for one more running back. So I think Brandon Beane could, in the middle rounds of the draft, maybe later on in the draft, take a running back who has more speed and agility like James Cook does. Or there is Aaron Jones in free agency. Now he is gonna be 30 years old, so that cliff that he might be falling down, it could be this season. But he did have a very good year last year with the Minnesota Vikings. However, the problem with him is that he had 5 fumbles last year, which is a little bit too much for my liking, so I can see the Bills just sticking with Ray Davis and Ty Johnson, and maybe a little rookie, in the middle rounds of the draft. All right, so now I'm going to talk about the Super Bowl really quick. So you guys saw the Philadelphia Eagles obviously won. They beat the Chiefs, and the reason being their defensive line was dominant from start to finish. Every single player on the defensive line was talented, and they got into the quarterback. They had some elite pass rushers. They're just filled out greatly. Now, that is kind of what the Bills are missing. Their defensive line was kind of non-existent in that game against Kansas City, and that's one of the reasons why we lost. Obviously, the Eagles blew them out, so if we had a good defensive line, who knows, maybe we could have blew them out in the AFC Conference Championship. So what I think two very good destinations for James Cook would be the Cleveland Browns and the Las Vegas Raiders. Reason being, I believe there is a world where we could include James Cook in a trade for Myles Garrett or Max Crosby. Now, obviously, you have to add in more than that, maybe a couple of second-round picks or a third-round pick, maybe even have to give up a first. But getting one of Myles Garrett or Max Crosby would completely transform this defense, especially being able to pair them with Greg Rousseau or with Von Miller most likely on his way out, which I'll make a video on that in the future. Having Max Crosby and Greg Rousseau on the edges could set this team up really, really nicely for the next 2 to 3 years. So now with all the options being weighed, either, trading him, extending him, letting him go, and just getting a guy in free agency, what do you think the Buffalo Bills will do? Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.